Okay, I'd like to call the meeting back to order. If I could, because the Patriots are starting to play and we want to get out of here.
Oh, whoa.
Mr. Chairman, that's not going to be up to me. It depends how many questions you feel like asking. So, this is on you.
Okay, so what's the next one?
Oh, yes, I should introduce what that is. So the next hearing is 071-17 Scullin, 16 Worcester Court, Falmouth. Special permit to raise and reconstruct a detached garage.
And voting members?
So let's see, we just had Robert, so let's go back to Jerry.
Being all persons deemed affected by the Board of Appeals under Section 11 of Chapter 40A of the Massachusetts General Laws, you are hereby notified that Stephen A. Scullin III and Doreen B. Scullin of Hingham, Mass. applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a modification of existing special permits 9316 and 12916 pursuant to Sections 240-3C and 240-69E of the Code of Falmouth to raise and construct the pre-existing non-conforming detached garage on the subject property known as 16 Worcester Court, Falmouth, Massachusetts, and for referrals. From Concom, contains stormwater on property. From Assessor's easement to benefit Lot 18. From Fire Department, no comment. And from Planning, no comment.
Good evening, Mr. Chair.
Who's the applicant?
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. For the record, my name is Kevin Clower. I'm an attorney here with Ahmed Clower Law Firm, and I represent Steve and Doreen Scullin, the applicants in this matter. They are the owners of 16 Worcester Court, and they're before you this evening to modify special permit numbers 93-16 and 129-16, both of which were issued last year. They're here tonight as they're seeking to raise, R-A-Z-E, and rebuild the existing garage on the property. Though some of you may be familiar with this property, I'd like to review it for the record. As mentioned, this is 16 Worcester Court, which is located in the heart of Falmouth Heights. The lot is 6,874 square feet. The house footprint is 1,214 square feet. It's 2 stories, and there's a standalone garage currently of 250 square feet. This property is non-conforming in a few ways. It's non-conforming to the front yard setback to the house, being 12.7, where 25 is required. Side yard setback to the house of 4.1, where 10 is required. In rear yard setback to the garage of 7.7, where 10 is required. There is existing lot coverage by structure of 22.2, which is allowed by the special permits. And I do want to make the note that there is an exclusive use easement that benefits this lot over the lot to the north, and that's an area of 3,778 square feet. What we're seeking tonight is to raise and rebuild the existing garage. The structure is located in the rear of the property behind the house. It is, we're looking to relocate the garage. It'll now be 11.4 feet from the rear yard setback. It'll be a slightly larger footprint, having 350 square feet, which would raise the lot coverage by structure to 23.2%. There's no finished space being proposed, and this will include a loft space in the garage only for storage. This requires a permit from you, one to modify the existing permits under 240-3C and also under 240-69E for the increase in lot coverage. 240-3C states that pre-existing non-conforming structures may be altered and changed by special permit from this board, provided that they're not substantially more detrimental than what currently exists. The board is asked to consider the standards of 240-216 and whether or not this creates any new dimensional nonconformities, impairs views of vistas, and reasonably conforms to the average dimensions in the area. In addition, 240-69E looks at some similar standards, and what they ask the board to consider is the size and height of the structures in relation to the average size and height of structures in the area, the effects of shadow on adjacent properties, the impacts on views and vistas, and the effect of nitrogen in the coastal embayments. What's being proposed, I think, is a fairly modest change to the site. We're eliminating the existing non-conforming setback. Neither of the other existing nonconformities are going to be impacted. No new dimensional nonconformities being created. There's no impact on views and vistas, as the garage is located in the rear of the lot. The size and height of the house and the garage are going to be in line with the surrounding area. The average footprint in this area is about 1,780 square feet, and the average gross building area is about 3,069 square feet. What we're seeking is a footprint of 1,534 square feet and a gross building area of 2,892. These are both below the existing averages. Further, this project meets the standards of 240-216. For these reasons, I would ask that the board grant the permit. That being said, I'd be happy to address any questions you might have at this time.
Okay. Let's see if there's any questions. Robert?
No question.
No question?
Kim?
Any sheds on the property?
No,
No proposed sheds?
no. That's what the garage is for.
Why wasn't this included previously, last year?
They weren't sure if they were going to do it. They were looking at, spending a good amount of the budget on the house, and they weren't sure if this was going to get done now or further down the line, and decided they'd rather just get it done now.
Okay. You said current lot coverage is 22.2,
Yes.
and it will be increased to 23.2?
I'm sorry, existing is 21.3, will be increased to 23.2.
Okay, so that's, I guess, that's what I'm confused about. So ours says, and maybe, so that's on your plan, it says 21.3?
That's what's on the
Because
plan.
I think in the previous special permit, said lot coverage by structures is non-conforming at 22.2%. And I think the
Was
lot
that the
coverage
existing or the
remains,
proposed?
did it remain the same or no?
I think it went down.
Oh,
I
it
think
did.
they removed the shed, is what I think they
Okay.
did.
I probably made them. Let me see.
I'm not going to comment.
No. Okay, so it did go down previously. I knew it was just them rebuilding basically the same.
They
Project,
stayed
so-
essentially within the same footprint.
Okay, so I just want to make sure we have the right number. So it's 21.3% increasing to 22.3.
23.2. The proposed is 23.2.
Okay. All right. 21.3 to, no, wait, what
Here it
is
is
it
here.
now? I'm looking at the wrong thing. I think.
21.3 currently.
Yes, and going to 23.3.
Going to
Correct.
23.2.
Okay, I was
Correct.
looking at
It's on the drawing.
the application or whatever, it says 21.3 to 22.3, that's what I was,
It's my fault.
no, it's, well,
It
yeah,
is.
it probably is. Is there any heat in the garage?
I don't believe so.
No.
No,
Okay, so, and no habitable space?
no.
Okay, thank you.
Jerry, anything?
No, I
Sorry,
think-
TJ.
No, not to worry. I assume that the proposed garage is being built on a concrete slab, so there's no basement?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
No question.
Thank you.
Is there like a loft or something on the,
There is a loft for your storage space in the garage.
accessed by?
There's a ladder. On the cross-section, you can see if there's a cross-section plan that was submitted that shows a ladder going up.
Okay,
A steep ladder.
that's fine.
They're spry.
All right, that's it for me. So I think we've addressed all the board questions. Sarita, do you have any?
No.
Yes, ma'am. If you wish to speak, you must come to the podium and state your name for the record.
Okay. I am really unfamiliar with everything that's happening here. And
Your name,
I live
please.
right in back of,
Yeah, you have to
Your
start by saying who you are.
oh, I'm sorry. My name is Sheila Lister. I live on 60 Harbor Avenue, which I believe it's just a small portion in back of my house, but I just was concerned of how tall this building was going to be. And he did mention how many feet, but I would like to see it on the plan.
Yes.
So I come over here?
Okay. Do address it to the board, and then...
So in response to Ms. Lister's question, the height of the proposed garage is going to be 18 feet, right here at the ridge height. So this is the viewing it from the front, and if you're looking from your house, I suppose you'd see this.
Well, see, my concern is I have a shower back there. So you do have a window back here.
Ma'am, address your comments to the
Oh,
board,
all right.
okay? And,
My concern is I have a shower in the back of there, and I don't know how, he said 18 feet tall.
what
I'm
is
not
the
sure.
current height of the garage?
That's the height of it?
The current height is 12 feet.
Oh, 12 feet?
So this will be 6 feet higher. Uh, Are there any windows facing the rear?
There is a window to the rear, yes, because you want, it's in the loft space, so you don't like be able to access what you can see.
How far of a distance is there between the fence?
Again, address your comments to us,
How
please.
far from the fence that's there now to where this building is gonna be? Is it 3 feet? Is there so much feet that has to be, so much footage that has to be?
He'll address you.
We're increasing the existing setback of 7 feet to 11 feet 4 inches.
Okay,
So
So you're
it's
getting an
7
additional, you're getting an additional about 5 feet of clearance. They're moving 5 feet further away.
Okay. All right, then that should be okay, I would think. It's a lovely shed, garage.
Okay, again,
But we're all
please
set.
address.
Okay, all right, I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with doing this, but I was concerned about,
Please.
all right, thank you.
You're welcome. Glad your questions were answered. Any other questions from the public? Okay, if there are no further questions, does the board have enough information?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to close the hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the hearing. I'll
Okay.
second.
Moved by Ed, seconded by Jerry. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it passes unanimously. I would entertain a motion to approve the project. I assume we would like to approve the project.
I'll move to approve application 7117.
I'll second.
Okay, moved by Kim, seconded by TJ. Findings.
Currently, the setback is 7 feet, and it's being increased to 11 feet 4 inches and made conforming. Loft use, testimony that loft will be used only for storage. No proposed heat, no proposed habitable space. Just found a concrete slab, so no basement. Lot coverage is increasing from 21.3% to 23.2%. I think it's increasing the utilization of the garage by providing storage for the property owner or applicant, and 240-216.
It's not substantially more detrimental? Do we have to make that finding?
Well, under 24216, I think that's...
Under 240-3, it's not more detrimental.
Right. Is that-
Okay, any conditions?
Per plans.
Per plans?
No habitable space in the garage.
Okay. All right, are we ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And aye. Okay. So, don't run away, Mr. Flower, because I think you're on the next couple. So, that passes unanimously, and we can move on to 072-17, which is the third hearing, but it's by first. 25 Half Moon Circle, East Falmouth.
I get that.
And voting members, Mr. Chairman?
The voting members, we'll be back to Robert, right?
Okay.
Being all persons deemed affected by the Board of Appeals under Section 11 of Chapter 48 of the Massachusetts General Laws, you are hereby notified that Robert and Carol C. First of East Falmouth, Massachusetts applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit pursuant to Section 240-69E of the Code of Falmouth to construct a laundry room and garage addition creating habitable space above an addition to the rear of the and in addition to the rear of the dwelling, increasing existing habitable space, exceeding 20% lot coverage by structures on subject property, known as 25 Half Moon Circle, East Falmouth, Massachusetts. And for referrals. Engineering, it's the standard comment. The project must not direct any stormwater runoff to public property, abutters, or rights of way. We recommend adding dry wells, rain garden, or other stormwater measure for the roof. Concom had no comment. Assessors had no comment. Fire department had no comment. Planning had no comment. And we received 4 letters of support, 1 letter with comments / no objections.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. For the record, my name is Kevin Clower, and I'm an attorney here with Ahmed Clower Law Firm. Tonight, I represent Robert and Carol First, the owners of 25 Half Moon Circle in East Falmouth. This property is located in the Great Harbors neighborhood on a lot of 14,306 square feet. The footprint of the existing structure is 2,795 square feet. It's a single-story home with a height of 18 feet. This house is currently conforming as to front, side, and rear yard setbacks, as well as lot coverage by structure and lot coverage by structures, paving, and parking. The First have owned this property for 3 years, and they're in the process of making this their full-time residence. In the midst of that transition, they found that the existing house is not sufficient for their needs. Specifically, they need a garage. Mrs. First blames this on her husband's 3 midlife crises. She said I could say that. They're seeking to add a small addition and to repurpose some of the existing space. This includes a garage and a small bunk room above, but they're eliminating one of the existing bedrooms, repurposing that, so there's no change in the amount of bedrooms. The proposed dwelling has 3,294 square feet, and will have a new ridge height of 21 feet. This only applies to the area of the garage addition. The rest of the house will remain at 18 feet. And the resulting lot coverage after the addition would be 23.02%. We're requesting a special permit under section 240-69E of the bylaw, which allows for lot coverage by up to lot coverage of up to 25% by special permit, and the board is tasked with considering the size and height of the structures in relation to the average size and height of structures in the area, the effects of shadow on adjacent properties, impacts on views and vistas, the effect of nitrogen on coastal embayments. As to height, the addition is slightly higher than the existing ridge. However, there's a little impact of shadow on nearby properties. Shadows will generally be cast towards either the street or the rear yard. The addition is going to be located 30 feet from the rear yard line, and the dwelling to the rear of that is approximately 50 feet away for a total distance of 80 feet there. There's no adverse impact on views and vistas from public ways. There's no increase to the number of bedrooms. As I mentioned, one of the existing bedrooms is being repurposed into an office space, which will have a larger opening. So there's therefore no effect on a coastal embayment. As to size, we use gross building area as provided by the assessors and submitted a spreadsheet about a week ago, which looked at lot size, gross building area, and stories of the existing, of the 42 properties within 300 feet of this. Of those, there are 6 properties that have a higher gross building area, and an additional 7 are within 200 square feet of what's being proposed, essentially, at this point, being a very similar size. This property is certainly not an outlier to the area, and it's worth noting that this is a 1-story home. Many of the surrounding properties, 14 of the 42 specifically, are the 1.5 or 2-story houses. The applicants could be going up. They could go up another 1.5 stories without the benefit of a special permit, but they want to stay in character with the area, and they thought this was the more effective way of doing that. Based on this, I think it's safe to say that the proposed dwelling is certainly within the appropriate range in relation to the average size and heights in the neighborhood. This proposal is not substantially more detrimental than what exists. There's no adverse effects. There's no new nonconformities being established. There's no impact on public views or views or vistas, and it meets the standards of 240-216. Based on this, I think that this project meets the criteria of 240-69E, and we would ask that you grant a special permit. I would be glad to address any questions you might have at this time.
Okay. Robert, any questions?
No, you're gonna be removing the shed?
Yes, that's being shown as shed to be removed.
In the current septic system, is that for a three-bedroom?
I believe so.
That's all I have.
Ed, anything? You ready yet, Kim?
Yes, I think so. Kevin, I think that you said lot coverage is going from 19.53, I thought you said to 23.02, but based on the plans, it looks like it's 23.75, is that correct?
Are you looking at the revised plans that were submitted last week?
No,
Has an August 28th revision date.
no.
Here it is,
I
here.
printed off what we had at, what was sent.
So
So
the
it's
shed was
0.32.
removed.
Okay.
I think the original plans retained the shed.
Yes.
And
Okay.
the revised plans that were submitted last week removed the shed, so it's 23.02.
Okay, great. And then, I guess that makes sense. 3 bedrooms remaining, 3 bedrooms. Okay, that's all I have.
TJ?
What's the septic rated for?
As Bob asked, I believe it's a 3-bedroom septic.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
I don't know of anything to the contrary, but I can't say that with much absolute certainty.
Sure. And the existing basement is to remain, and the proposed addition is the concrete slab?
Correct. And the existing basement is unfinished.
All right. And the proposed office space, that's a 5-foot cased opening that I see?
I believe it's at least 4 foot, which is what's required to not be a bedroom.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it's 4 or 5,
And is it all right if we condition that as well? I know it's on the plans.
Absolutely.
Okay,
per plan.
per plan. In terms of dry wells, can you address the engineering comment?
I mean, I think that I would be happy to put in kind of what's become, I don't want to say a standard condition, but would be happy to agree to the condition that's been used in the past, that dry wells to be added as necessary for engineering.
Sure. I thought I had something else here. Oh, the addition, so the existing structure's at 18 feet, and then the proposed addition, that's 21 feet in the back.
Correct, it's 20, the proposed addition is going to be 21 feet running, the ridge is going to run perpendicular to the existing ridge.
Okay, I think that does it for me, thank you.
Jerry?
So this does not require any more approval from the Board of Health. And the reason I ask, you have a cesspool in the front on this drawing, and you have 2 cesspools in the back. That doesn't lend itself to the terminology septic tank. Maybe it's a Scrivener's error, but if you've got Board of Health approval, so be it.
I mean, this would be, as with any application, this would be circulated to the Board of Health, along with every other board for approval when they're signing off on it. Whereas they're not changing the amount of bedrooms, I don't believe they'd be required to change the septic, but I'd have to ask Mr.
If
Bunker.
it's a cesspool, it could have been an issue.
Well, I defer to Mr. Bunker on that one, and unfortunately, he's not with us this evening.
Or the Board of Health.
Or certainly will, but in terms of the question,
Okay.
to me, I would defer to the engineer.
Okay. Thank you.
Jerry, you raise a good point there.
I always do.
Because it does say on the plan cesspool, it does not say septic.
I mean, some cesspools have passed Title V inspections. I know a number of properties where that's occurred. I can't tell
That's
you
true.
with any certainty that this one has, but I think that they would certainly
So-
comply with whatever requirements the Board of Health imposed on them.
I guess for Sari, the question would be, we want to include perhaps a condition that, since we don't have adequate information right now.
Well, the finding, I always put the finding, I believe it's E, 24216E, that we received no referral from the Board of Health. This project has to have Board of Health approval prior to the issuance of a building permit. And then you can just make a condition that they submit verification of Board of Health approval prior to issuance of a building permit as a condition.
Would
That's
that
what we've
be-
done before.
Would that be sufficient of the Board of Health sign off on the building permit application?
I accepted that today on another project, yes.
So what I was trying to say earlier was the building permit applications are circulated to the various boards for sign-off prior to issuance, so that would be done with the Board of Health on
Right, I
this
just
one
want
as
to
well.
be sure our decision reflects
Right,
that approval is required.
right. That's a condition that you can make, and the finding would be under 24216E, I think it is.
So,
That's adequate.
Kevin, you submitted information about the square footage of buildings in the area. Do you have any information as to how many of those have lot coverage exceeding 20%?
I don't have that information with me, but the requirement in the bylaw does not ask you to look at lot coverage. It says average size and height of structures in the area, in the neighborhood. So it doesn't ask you to compare it to other lot coverages exceeding 20%.
And can you tell us, in terms of the ranking relative to these 42 properties, where it is now and where it will be after?
I don't know where it is currently. I know that the proposed, there are 6 larger
Six.
that have, there are 6 that have a higher gross building area, and there are 7 that are within 200 square feet, is the testimony I had given. So what I was trying to establish is that this property, this proposed dwelling, is not an outlier in terms of the neighborhood.
And this is gross building area, which you've defined as,
It's essentially
Some-
interior space. It's essentially...
some of the first and second, or first floors and any floors above.
So it's first floor, and which is the majority of the house, and there is a very small bunk room above the garage.
In this case, yes, but
Yes.
for the others.
It's taken from the assessor's information. So I believe they look at all of, apologize. I believe they look at the first and second, and, you know, if there's a half story as well, they look at the interior space of the building.
Correct.
Finished basements would count, unfinished basements wouldn't, is my understanding,
Now, prior to coming to us, this house conformed entirely,
entirely.
so they're essentially, by doing this, well, but
A special permit.
it's, yeah, you're...
Not non-conforming, it'll be conforming to the special
non-conforming,
permit.
but it is a special permit. Okay, I guess those are my questions. Any comments, questions, concerns in the public? Okay. Hearing no comments from the public, I think the board, if the board's ready, we could have a motion to close.
Make a motion to close?
Ed makes a motion to close. Is there a second?
I'll second.
TJ seconds. Ed and TJ, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And I. Okay, do we have a motion with respect to this project?
I'll move to approve application 72-17.
Okay,
Second.
TJ moves in favor for approval. Ed seconds. TJ, you want to make some findings?
Sure will. 240-216. The shed in the rear of the property will be removed. Proposed office will include a cased opening. I think the applicant said it was 4 feet.
I think 5, it says 5.
5?
5 feet on the plan.
5 feet. 3 beds,
Bedroom count remains the same.
remains the same. Let's see, the existing structure is 18 feet, but with the addition in the rear, it'll be 21, and won't have an effect on views or vistas
In terms of the height.
in terms of the height. It's increased utilization of the property for the applicant with the addition of the garage and the reorganization of the space.
And we certainly need to cite that they're going from 19...
19.53, I think it is, to
Yeah.
23.2?
23.02.
02. Regarding the engineering recommendation dry wells, the applicant will consult their own engineers regarding that in terms of placement. And Sari, the cesspools, like you said, was that 240, 216E?
240-216E, I believe, I got his
Adequacy.
disease of
Adequacy of the
sewage.
method of sewage
Whatever.
disposal. Okay. And so then in terms of conditions,
Per plans.
I just think we ought to have something that says,
regarding the cesspool?
Yeah.
I'll just put that the applicant is required to submit verification from the Board of Health of approved system
Yes.
prior to issuance of building permit.
Okay.
Dry wells as required.
And removal of shed. I know that's per plan as well.
Mm-hmm. Got removal of shed?
Conditioning the cased opening on the office is a little redundant, or should we?
No, I think
It's
it's
per
good.
plans.
Yeah.
But I don't have a problem with it. I think it makes clear that we feel it's important.
What, add that as a condition,
Yeah.
5-foot cased opening?
5 or 4.
It's 5 feet on the plan.
Wait, I missed one somewhere, I believe. What do you got? Yeah, I got that, cased opening.
Do you have a finding as to the height?
Oh,
We
yeah.
do.
Yes.
Okay.
I got, okay, engineer. Dry well.
And there was a.
Can we really condition anything on the amount of bedrooms if?
To remain a
if they'll
3-bedroom.
Remain 3?
Right.
Okay. So I wasn't
'Cause they're
sure
not
since the
putting
issue
in-
with
they
the
haven't-
cesspool is.
They're not putting
the
in a
air.
new septic system, so.
Right. I guess whatever they currently have is approved for 3. But the question is, if
Let's
they're
hope so.
making significant construction, do they need to do an upgrade? I don't know.
The major part is the garage, so if they pass, I've seen them where they pass, if they're not increasing the habitable space.
Yeah, well, they are a little, maybe,
A mudroom, right?
because they've got that.
Mudroom's not
bedroom on the-
habitable.
They've got the bunk room up above.
Yeah, that may do it then.
Okay, satisfied with conditions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I'm in favor, passes unanimously. Okay, so,
Cooking with gas now.
The
Next
next one
week-
has to be a denial.
we have the final public hearing of the evening is 073-17. Faggio, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, LP, 117 Surf Drive, Falmouth, special permit to raise and reconstruct a dwelling.
And voting members?
And voting members is, Robert, you did this one, so Jerry does the next, is that correct? Yes. Okay.
Bear with
We
me.
will bear
One
with
moment. Thank you. Being all persons deemed affected by the Board of Appeals under Section 11 of Chapter 48 of the Massachusetts General Laws, you are hereby notified that Faggio LP of Waltham, Mass. applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit pursuant to Sections 240-3C and 240-69E of the Code of Falmouth to raise and reconstruct the pre-existing non-conforming single-family dwelling on subject property known as 117 Surf Drive, Falmouth, Massachusetts, and for referrals. Engineering, it's a little longer, so I will just read the whole thing. This application was reviewed only for impacts to public rights-of-ways and public utilities. Surf Drive and Bywater Court are public right-of-ways in this area. No alterations are proposed to the right-of-way. Any changes within the right-of-way would require filing a permit with the engineering division. Any connections or alterations to public utilities would require permission from the appropriate town department. The project must not direct any stormwater runoff to public property, abutters, or rights-of-way. Dry wells are proposed for roof runoff. We strongly recommend that the address for this house be changed to a Bywater Court address since there is no access off Surf Drive, and the number is currently displayed on Bywater Court, which is where the new number will likely be posted. This can be done at engineering. Concom notice of intent hearing scheduled for September 13th, 2017. Assessors had no comment, and planning had, one more, planning had no comment, and fire department had no comment.
Okay, surprise!
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. First, introducing myself. My name is Kevin McLeod. I'm an attorney with Ahmed McLeod Law Firm here in Falmouth, and I represent Fazio LP, the owner of 117 Surf Drive. I'm joined tonight by Mr. Bruno Gallinelli, who is the manager of Fazio LP and the owner of the property. I'm also joined by Mark Bogosian and James Bustamante of Longfellow Design Build here in Falmouth. This property is located at 117 Surf Drive, which has frontage along both Surf Drive and Bywater Court. It is on a lot of 9,354 square feet and is located in a residential C zoning district. The existing house has a footprint of 2,327 square feet. The entirety of the lot is located in a velocity zone with an elevation of 15. This structure is non-conforming. It's non-conforming as to front yard setback, being 13 feet from Bywater Court, where 25 feet is required. Being that it has frontage along two roads, I hadn't seen a front yard designation, so we're assuming that as a nonconformity. The lot coverage is also 24.9%. Lot coverage by structures is 24.9%, where 20 is allowed by right and up to 25% by special permit. This property is otherwise conforming as to the rear and side yard. As some background, Mr. Gallinelli recently purchased this property, and he has found that the existing footprint and the layout is inadequate for his large family, which includes his 3 kids and his 6 grandchildren, and I've been told that there's more grandchildren coming, so I shouldn't just say 6. He's seeking to make alterations to the property so that this can become he and his wife's full-time residence. Given that this is located in a velocity zone, these renovations trigger the necessity of compliance with construction standards in a flood zone. As such, they have no choice but to raise RAZE and rebuild the structure. And in doing so, they'll be increasing the size of the building, the gross floor area, in order to allow them to make this their home for years to come. Pursuant to the building code and the FEMA regulations, they're raising the structure so that all the mechanicals, as well as the bottom of the horizontal joist supporting the first floor of habitable space, will be located at least 2 feet above the flood elevation, meaning that the joist can't even begin until elevation 17. The proposed house actually has a smaller footprint than what exists. We're lowering the proposed lot coverage to 24.2%. We also met with Rod Palmer last week and obtained a front yard designation in which he designated Surf Drive as the front yard of the property for setback purposes. Sorry. Eliminating the potential existing nonconformity there. This proposal will otherwise comply with front, rear, and side yard setbacks. This does require a special permit from the board under both 243C and 24069E. Even though I've been over these previously, I'll say them again for the record in this case. 243C states that pre-existing non-conforming structures may be changed by special permit, provided this board finds that what's being proposed is not substantially more detrimental than what currently exists. You're asked to consider the standards of 240-216 and whether the alteration creates a new dimensional nonconformity, impairs views of vistas, reasonably conforms to the average dimensions in the area. And that's it. And what we're proposing results in the existing lot coverage nonconformity being decreased. The potential nonconforming setback to Bywater Court has been eliminated by the designation. There's no new dimensional nonconformity. The existing nonconformities are improved, and it's not a detriment to the neighborhood due to the compliance with the construction standards in the flood zone, being an overall benefit to the neighborhood. As lot coverage will still exceed 20%, we're also required to get a special permit under 69E. In that case, the board is asked to consider the size and height of the structure in relation to the average size and height of structures in the area, the effects of shadow on adjacent properties, the impacts of views and vistas from public ways, and the effects of nitrogen on coastal embayments. As to height, it's clear that we're proposing a much taller structure than what currently exists. Much of the size of the structure is required by the necessity of raising the entire building to 12 feet above grade, which is elevation 17. That's the starting point. However, in order to address massing concerns of the board, we proposed much of the ground level be supported by pilings. We had proposed that the only enclosed area be the stairway, elevator, and the garage, and that's an area of 994 square feet. This is a decrease of 57%, or 1,333 square feet from what currently exists today. As to views, vistas, and effects of shadow, this will be a visible project. It will be a visible house, and it will have some shadowing effects. You're asked to consider the views from public ways. This will not negatively impact the view from the public way, and the increase in size is required. That being said, the applicant has sought to reduce his needed space as much as possible. There is no effect on nitrogen for coastal embayments as this project is on town sewer, and the expansion of bedrooms to 3 to 4 is allowed in that case. As to the size of the structure, we submitted a table last week which depicts the lot size, gross building area, and footprint of the 28 dwellings within 300 feet of this property. And again, as before, we determined the gross building area by the town of Falmouth assessor records. Of those properties, there are 7 homes with a larger gross building area, and there are 6 homes with larger footprints. Again, this property is not an outlier. It's in line with many of the homes in the area. However, and this is important, this is not the first property being required to come into compliance with construction standards in the flood zone, and it's certainly not the last. Of those 28 homes in the area, all of them are either in the VE15 flood zone or the AE12 flood zone. Many of these properties, at some point in the probable not-too-distant future, will be required to come into compliance as well. I think it's most appropriate to compare this property to the other homes that have come into compliance. And of those 28 homes, only 6 are in compliance with the construction standards. For those homes, the gross building area is 4,406 square feet. The average footprint is 2,356 square feet. What we're seeking is a gross building area of 4,014 square feet and a footprint of 2,266 square feet, both less than the averages of these properties. I believe this is the most direct comparison and the properties against which we should be judged. That being said, even looking at the totality of the 28 properties, I think that this is a highly approvable project, given that it is very much not an outlier as to those properties. Going back to the actual terms of the bylaw, the board's asked to consider these issues. And they're also asked to consider whether this proposal has adverse effects which outweigh the beneficial aspects. Here, we're establishing substantial improvements to the property. There's going to be compliance with construction standards in a flood zone, a decrease of one nonconformity, the elimination of another. There's no real adverse effect and a number of beneficial effects. We also meet the standards of 240-216. All this being said, I have another wrinkle that I want to have to throw into this, unfortunately. Concom voted their decision last evening. They voted to allow the project and approve an order of conditions, but they conditioned that approval on the elimination of the flood panels surrounding the garage. The applicant's unsure as to how he's going to proceed at the moment, specifically whether or not he's going to appeal the conservation decision, or the order rather. Our feeling is that this decision runs contrary to many of their past decisions, so he wants to keep his options open. What I would ask is that the board proceed with the plans that are before you, but we would ask that any decision be conditioned to allow him to decrease the enclosed area on the ground floor and to allow administration approval of that enclosed area. As an example, one plan we'll be considering has approximately 460 square feet being enclosed, and that's down from the 994 that's being sought tonight. I have a current draft, and I don't want to condition, if it's approved, I wouldn't want to condition the approval as to this plan, because this is just being worked on. This is something that came down today, but I did bring these in to submit to you to show you what we're looking at as an alternative. But I believe that the board has enough information, and that whatever we're looking at is going to be enough in line that it could be administratively approved as to any decrease in area. And it would only be a decrease to the ground floor.
Thank you.
And that's just the first 2 pages of the plan, being the sketch of the house, as well as the first floor plan, or the ground floor plan. As an ending note, I'd like to take a moment to say that this is what we want from owners in this area. We want them to improve their properties. We want them to make them safer and stronger and less vulnerable to damage. We need these properties to improve. We want and need compliance with construction standards in a flood zone. This is vital to the continued health of the town and the resiliency of the coast. This will result in a dwelling that is safer, stronger, and that will minimize damage in the event of a storm. The applicant has taken every effort to do so in a responsible and efficient manner. And for these reasons, and given these considerations, I would ask that you grant the special permit. I'd be happy to address any questions you might have at this time.
Okay. Jerry, you want to start?
Yeah, I think we usually get story heights. In fact, I thought we requested it, and you gave it in the last application, but on the one I'm looking in front of, I don't see any story heights.
On the elevation plans.
No, for the surrounding area, for the mass calculation. I mean, it's obviously one, that's one story, the one next to it's one story.
Sure.
But that's normally submitted, did you not get the request?
I did not get the request for the story heights, to the extent that was a separate request. I submitted these figures last week, and I don't recall a separate request for story heights.
Okay.
I would have been happy to submit it.
I did submit them. I took photos of the surrounding homes and noted on a map what they are. They are in the file.
Barry, do you want to look at this?
No, I just, consistency, if you, normally we get the height, we
Sure.
didn't get it, so we did it for us, so, or for you.
thank her.
The other thing is that this sometimes can slip through. You're tying into the existing sewer system.
Already connected to the sewer system.
You will need a modification, because when you break that pipe, you could add sand and soil and everything else. I strongly suggest you contact the wastewater division to see what if you
Okay, Jerry,
need.
let's stick to zoning.
Well, this is a zoning, because it has to do with wastewater disposal. I'm sorry.
I'd be happy to talk to the builder about that.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay?
No further.
Okay.
Attorney Clower, have a repeat question from another we had tonight. The first floor study, there's a cased opening there?
Yes. Happy to condition that as well.
Great, and that's 5 feet?
I didn't scale it, but it's at least 4.
At least 4, all right. Let's- In regards to the conservation's decision with the removal of the breakaway panels, don't really want to put you on the spot about this, but do you have any reason why they did that? Because it is allowed under state building code, and it kind of limits the utilization of the space for the applicant in terms of storage.
I agree.
Okay?
Um,
Didn't,
I mean, without going too into the weeds on this, our position has been that breakaway panels are in fact allowed if you were able to overcome the presumption of an adverse effect. We felt that we did that. The Conservation Commission is taking the position that they're not allowing breakaway. My understanding is that Conservation Commission is taking the position that they're not going to allow breakaway panels more than what is absolutely necessary. So in this case, they've allowed us to enclose the area of the entryway, the stairwell, the elevator, but they don't want to enclose the additional garage space. They have issued a number of decisions in the past where they have allowed breakaway panels for raise and rebuilds of existing structures. We felt that this was very analogous to those situations, which is why the applicant is exploring his options.
thanks for the diplomatic answer. All set.
If you ask me later, I'll tell you what I really think.
Okay, so you said front yard designation is Surf Drive?
Correct,
Okay.
because we meet the setback requirement on Surf Drive, whereas we don't on Bywater Court.
Right, for zoning purposes.
For zoning
But the
purposes.
address is Bywater Park.
Well, the address is Surf Drive. The
It
current
is,
address
yes,
is
that's
Surf
right,
Drive.
117.
The engineering department was recommending that it be changed to a Bywater Court address.
Okay.
I haven't really discussed that with the applicant as of yet, but I'd be happy to do so.
Okay. I don't, just trying to clean it up. So TJ asked about the study cased opening. I'm going to ask about the sitting room cased opening on the second floor there. Just want to make sure.
My answer's probably the same, but I'll
Minimum
look.
4 feet
Yes, it looks to me as though it's exactly what the study below it is.
and finding and condition, great. I just had a question for you regarding this elevator shaft and mudroom, just because I'm not familiar with the regulations. So you do have to elevate, but you can have, is it that you can have some?
The mechanicals that run that will not be located on the ground floor.
Okay,
The mechanicals will have to be located on an upper level.
okay.
But that being said, the elevator is allowed to be on the ground floor level. My limited understanding of elevator engineering is that it's typically at the top.
Yeah. And then, So the mudroom, is that heated? That's okay?
It'll be heated, yes. I mean, it can be heated, it's just not supposed to be, it can be heated, but it's not supposed to be the living space.
It's
I
not
understand.
considered habitable space.
Okay, that's the question. Not habitable space is what I have written down. No shed.
Correct.
Just give me 1 sec to scroll through my, okay, so I just want to make sure I was kind of sloppy in taking my notes. So you're eliminating one nonconformity, what is that?
The front yard setback to Bywater Court,
Right, okay, because you're,
where we have a designation.
right, and then you're decreasing one other.
The lot coverage is going from 24.9% to 24.2%.
24.2, okay, thank you. And total overall height is 34 feet, 4 inches,
Correct.
okay? Okay, great, thank you.
No other questions? No more questions?
No questions.
Just looking to see if I have any. So, I wanted to be sure that your footprint or your gross floor area calculation, that 4,400?
It's 4,014 is what I,
4,014, does that include the first
that
floor?
that includes the ground floor,
The
yes.
ground floor?
Which is currently.
Which is, you show on the plan as minus 12. Great.
Well, they were showing that below the starting point, essentially. That's at elevation 5.
Right.
But that is, that currently includes the 996 square feet. If it was to be reduced, that number would go down.
In other words, if they make you take away the breakaway panels, then you won't count that.
I'm going to say if we agree to take away the breakaway panels, but yes, semantics.
And I'm a little confused about the garage. It says there's a garage. How is that working?
Well, that's kind of the crux of the question right now. There is garage doors being shown on the Bywater Court side of the house, which would access the driveways.
And if you take away these panels,
It would be
then
open
that
pilings,
will
and
no
they would park
longer-
underneath
you
there.
just park underneath.
Yes. But our hands are kind of tied on that one.
Mhm.
But I don't think that's too different from what a lot of the other houses on open pilings do in the area.
Right.
There's a house directly across the street, which is relatively new construction. That's on open pilings, and I believe they park underneath.
Mm-hmm. Wonder, I'm thinking more about the view from the neighbors looking towards, from
Well-
the side. Whether, if you didn't have garage doors, but you could drive in, essentially a carport sort of thing.
Mhm. I'd rather not condition it on no parking underneath the house, though,
Yeah, well, I'm assuming that's where you have to park, right?
basically. I mean, there was a driveway area, but yes, they would park underneath the house.
I don't know why we would want to condition it that way. Okay. And again, the ranking relative, I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 5 homes that are equivalent.
There are, bear with me for one moment.
Couple of them.
7 homes with a larger gross building area, 6 homes with a larger footprint. But when compared to the houses in compliance with the construction standards in a flood zone, it is below the average of gross floor area, and gross building area and footprint.
Okay. That's it for me. Is anyone else out there interested in commenting? Questions for Reed?
Yeah, Kevin, you've stated, and I asked today for verification of Rod's determination of a front yard.
I
Can you
submitted it
submit
to you.
that?
I emailed that to you this morning.
We didn't receive that,
Um,
me or Ashley.
Oh, I did send it this morning, however, I did bring a copy of it, which
Oh,
I'm happy
good,
to.
thank you.
This is my original, but.
If you could submit it to the clerk, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, do you need that back? Do you want me to send you a copy of it?
I scanned it.
Remember that?
I scanned it, don't worry. I have scanned it.
Okay, it seems like we've addressed all the questions. There's no public comment.
Before,
Cheers.
Mr. Chair,
Right there.
before you do close, I just want to reiterate that we would ask that any change to the footprint be allowed to be done, or not the footprint, I'm sorry, to the ground floor level, be allowed to be done administratively to,
You can ask.
I can ask. You can't say no unless I ask.
Did you prepare a condition?
I didn't have an opportunity to. I'm happy to submit it to you.
If the board conditions that, then we'll work together on that language.
So that is, you're asking that there be some kind of administrative process by which if you have to change the plans to accommodate
Conservation.
one way or the other.
Yeah. We're not, I mean, it would not be increasing. If anything, it's only going to be a decrease from what we're proposed. And it would still be within the same scope. It would just be less square footage, because if anything, would be eliminating the garages. That would just be to avoid the necessity of applying to amend the decision, which would require probably another 3-month process.
Right, okay. So it could be a board administrative approval.
I'd rather it be Sari, but I suppose it could.
Should that easy?
That's a question I'm not going to answer.
It's just because the length sometimes between hearings can hold up an applicant versus when they bring it into me, it's usually done within 1 to 3 days.
I was born at night, Ken, but it wasn't last night.
Okay, I'm happy to entertain a motion to close this.
Move to close.
Second.
Okay, Kim and Ed, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I. Okay, and I guess now we're looking for.
Can we have
Do you
some
want to
discussion?
call
Yes,
that,
we
do you want to
absolutely-
call that vote to close, please?
That he
I just
did.
heard a first and a second. Did you call the vote?
I did.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't paying attention
No, you
then.
were not.
I got the Patriots in my ear.
Which
Just
is why I
kidding.
didn't want to have discussion.
Just kidding.
but-
Passed unanimously. No, I'm
Thank you.
happy to have discussion.
No, I know, I was just kidding. I just want to say, I mean, these structures, obviously, I think Attorney Flower did a good job of pointing out, I mean, he was honest, this is taller, it's going to have a shadow impact. It is a change, certainly, I think a big change from what's there. But this is the way that these properties are going in this area, and they have to go. Personally, I think that there's kind of good scaling on the back because of the setback of that second floor of habitable space. It's attractive. The other side is a little boxy, but I think there's a positive and a negative there. The positive is they eliminated stairs, so they eliminated lot coverage. Because they eliminated those stairs, they put the elevator inside. And then the downside is they eliminated stairs, and so the scaling isn't quite there as it is on the back side. I actually like it better with the breakaway panels removed, but I can see the value for the property owner in having those for storage, particularly because they don't have a shed or anything like that. Otherwise, I think, given the nature of these, they are what they are. I think it's an attractive project.
Okay, anyone want to respond?
Definitely gonna be an improvement to what's there.
Yeah.
A long shot.
I think, there's a bigger problem which can't be addressed in the context of the existing zoning regulations. As sea level rises and storms continue to impact us, we may find some of these homes that are islands sitting in the middle of the, coastal waters. They're going to be there.
Well, that's appealing. You just bought the property.
He's got a private island now.
Get a boat.
Right. But given the way we're currently regulated, it certainly seems like a permissible project. I'm happy to have a motion if that's the extent of discussion for now.
Anyone?
We have a motion to close, or where are we at?
We've closed,
Okay, motion to approve.
yes.
Motion to approve.
Okay, Jerry is moving that we approve this project.
I'll second.
I think I assigned him on this one.
Yep.
Yes, you did.
And TJ seconds.
It's late.
So, Jerry, findings?
240-16, adequacy of the site in terms of size. It's no impact on traffic flow, improvement to safety, no adverse impact on the visual character of the neighborhood. I think there's adequacy method of surge disposal, provided they get that modified permit from the wastewater division. That's to protect the integrity of the system. You'll know if it's backing up.
And then probably the most relevant is that, look, the comparison to other homes in the area. We have 7, if I remember correctly, 6? Six that are as large or larger in terms of gross floor area, and that this falls below the average of homes that have been modified to meet the FEMA standards for the velocity zone. Is that correct? So I think that should be noted.
I just want to say, 24216, I know we include, and I think, in my opinion, certainly it's, the beneficial effect, it's beneficial, and I think we grant it, but I don't want to say that there's no impact on neighborhood visual character. I just don't think that's accurate with what we discussed tonight. We discussed that there was testimony that there is shadow, there is an impact. I think
There
the
was testimony
applicants,
to that effect.
Yeah, so
council said that.
We can say minimal.
I also don't want to say minimal. I think there is, but because of the regulations, that's I think a necessity. I'm not.
I think what we could say is there,
Yeah.
by testimony, there's shadowing, but
Yes.
that the necessity of the flood zone regulations requires it.
I agree.
I would say appropriate.
Hearing's closed.
Yes, I agree. I just don't want it, the decision
Kim,
to say no.
I like what you're saying.
Okay.
And I think, we're not saying you can't do it, but we're not saying it doesn't have any.
Right.
Based on the velocity, okay. Got it.
Yes. I have a few other findings to add. Findings for the study and the den are a case opening minimum of 4 feet. I think 240-3, I don't know if we already said that. Elimination of one finding that for zoning purposes, Surf Drive is the front yard, and there's elimination of the non-conforming front yard setback and a decrease of the lot coverage from 24.9 to 24.2%.
Should have a finding regarding the Conservation Commission.
Yes. Finding that's on town sewer. Finding overall height is 34 feet 4 inches. Finding no shed proposed. Finding, I guess we included that because of the FEMA regulations, we did that. And then finding that testimony that Concom is requiring removal of the breakaway panels, and that the applicant is currently weighing their options with respect to that decision. But I also think we need to add a finding that in the event that they choose to accept that decision, applicant has requested the ability to come in and allow a decrease in the enclosed area on the ground floor, and that will support our condition to that effect if we're all on board with that.
Also, engineering's request that they
Change the address to
change the
Bywater.
address, I think, should be noted in the
Findings of that,
findings.
yes.
No, that doesn't impact definition of front yard?
The
No.
driveway doesn't have to come in through the front. door.
Okay, all right.
Is that it for findings?
Could be.
Sounds like enough.
Doesn't sound like enough. Conditions?
Okay, Jerry made the motion, we should. ask
Per
him.
plan.
Well, but now we have a complex issue because it's per plan, but the plan might change because of CONSCOM. So we have to include
And they will
a
resubmit.
condition such that if the plan changes, they can come back and seek administrative approval.
By the board or by Suri?
Well, that's where,
At based on what's reset, I would think expedited by Suri.
Yeah, I would say that.
I think it's fairly straightforward.
Yeah.
But
yeah, you're good with that, Kim?
Yep, I think if, I mean, anything, they're just they're decreasing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I would just, obviously, Suri, you put the date of the plan, but just for the record right now, it's I think it's like the August 21st plan, because we did just receive this proposed or draft plan, so just for sake of completeness.
We're
Okay.
on conditions.
Other conditions?
Well, unless we want to condition it on the change of address, I don't know if we need to or want to or can.
I think of finding that the referral states that, and it's up to applicant to seek any
Yeah,
change through the engineering department, that's not zoning.
I have some other conditions
Okay?
while we're at it. That the study and the sitting room have minimum 4-foot cased openings. No shed. And you just include that. What was I looking, I was gonna see about an as-built plan. I don't know how anybody else feels about that.
They're not near any lot lines, are they?
No.
The only issue is height.
Yeah. That was my question. I
what
think-
about the breakaway panels if they change?
I think we already, did we
We
already
did
do
that, we've got that.
Okay, so
If you want an as-built pertaining to height,
Pertaining to height was my thought. I could go either way on that. It's not like it's 34 feet, 4 inches, so it's not right up against that.
right,
So we'll say no.
they got 8 whole inches.
All right. That was all I had written down.
I think I'd like to add, and they agreed to it, that they would seek a modification from the wastewater superintendent.
That's a finding.
It's not a condition.
I don't know why it would be, it's not a zoning aspect, but
It's an
they've made
adequacy
a
of
finding,
sewage, it's an adequacy of sewage disposal.
which is not our jurisdiction. It's up to wastewater to sign off on it and Board of
And if they
Health.
don't get-
Adequacy of sewage
And if
is,
they don't get notified?
I'm not going to argue. It's up to
Well,
the
I'm
board.
just trying to bring up.
Well, I don't have a
something.
problem
to the board.
saying that we would like to see certification of that. That's part of the decision,
Yeah,
that they meet the requirements.
So that's what we're gonna be
We're not
doing
saying-
from now on,
we're
is
not-
conditioning submission of, because we did it on the last thing too.
Well,
Are we
I-
just changing our,
I think in this case.
Well, the Board of Health is on the sign-off of the building permit application. Wastewater is not.
okay.
and this is significant because there've been many occasions when people have broken the pipe, they reconnected properly, but a lot of sand and everything else goes down an open pipe. And I got that from the chief
So does the board
operator.
want
What's the
verification of
condition?
wastewater?
It's verification,
Yes.
that's our word, prior to issuance of a building permit.
Prior to building permit issuance.
So we're just basically reinforcing
Okay.
the existing
Yeah.
Got it?
regulation.
Obligation.
Okay?
Is that it?
Everyone happy?
Yep.
Okay, all in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, I'm in favor, passes unanimously.
Great.
All right, so that gets us through all of the hearings. Do we have minutes to read? It seems like we have minutes of September 28th, is that
We
correct?
do. Jerry may want to table them if he didn't have time to read.
No, I read your correction,
Okay.
and I agree with it.
What was the correction, sorry?
I'm sorry?
Can I-
What was the correction?
We didn't put in something that Jerry had said. When we do minutes, they're not verbatim.
Right.
Well,
So she was able to go back and listen to the tape and try to get the gist of what Jerry was saying, so she sent it to Jerry. It's in there.
It's
Do you remember what
essentially saying-
page, Ashley?
I want to say it was 13.
Page 13.
I think essentially saying that the attorney agreed that the notice of prevention of harassment is not a legal document.
It's notice of easement, I thought.
Oh,
Is it not?
whatever the notice of,
It's notice of
It
easement.
was on the, just because I probably reviewed them, I think, before that.
It's on Midway.
It's on Midway.
Ashley did a good job.
Okay, yeah. That one comes for sign.
Ashley
I'll
always
move
does a
to
good job.
approve the minutes of September 28, 2017.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And I abstain, I think I wasn't here.
Correct.
We're not.
Okay, we did the vote on North Star.
We did.
Procedural rules and policies, probably nothing to talk about right now.
Based on the time, you have 1.5 minutes.
1.5 minutes, we're not gonna
Oh,
cover
well, then we're
much.
in open meeting.
Correspondence and board updates. Nothing. Reminder that we have on the 14th,
Joint
joint
meeting.
meeting with select people,
Conservation, Planning Board, and Board of Health.
and that takes place
Here at 8 a.m. Saturday morning, October
8
14th.
a.m. Saturday morning.
I will not be attending.
And are there snacks?
Pass the selectmen.
I think they did last time, didn't they? They had coffee, cake, and coffee.
And I had told you I couldn't attend also.
Right.
I'll
Okay,
be
so
out of town.
Jerry will not be there, so, okay, so that's just a reminder.
Any update on the conference that we're going to try to get together? Training session,
The work session?
work session?
No, because
Okay.
the board's been so busy and the joint
Okay.
meeting took over the weekend that we thought we might be able to do
Okay.
it.
And have we heard anything more about hack?
No.
Okay. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn? People seem eager to go.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.